Hi, I'm Nikki Friedman, and thank you so much for joining me for the Wonder Wife Workshop for day 11. So, yesterday I spoke with you about the importance of carefully weighing our words to our husband and making sure that we balance our negative feedback with at least three positive statements, which is really the advice of the renowned marriage therapist, Dr. Mayer Wickler. So today I wanted to clarify further that idea, as well as speak about practical ways that we can actually put that into practice. So first of all, I absolutely love hearing feedback from all of you. And I've had the opportunity to speak with several of you Wonder Wives throughout this workshop and be able to work with you one-on-one. One person who reached out to me after the lesson yesterday expressed that she was having a really hard time with the positive feedback towards her husband. She said she has no problem with the negative feedback, but with the positive, she was really struggling, and for a few reasons. Number one was that she felt like in the moment when you're upset and angry with your husband and you wanted to deliver some negative feedback, to go ahead and couch that with a bunch of positive statements, she felt was really inauthentic and just she wasn't motivated to do it. She was having a really hard time even coming up with anything positive to say in those moments. So I wanted to just step back from that and say that's a completely normal, rational feeling. And I support her in that. However, just to clarify, I wasn't saying that when we say something negative, it has to be fluffed up with a whole bunch of positive statements around it. We obviously want to be authentic in the way we communicate with our husband. Otherwise, it just backfires. They'll see right through that, right? So the idea is to really look at our relationship and the way that we communicate holistically. So if our marriage could be compared to, let's say, a bank account, right? We want to make sure that we're not going into the red. So we can think about the negative statements as making a withdrawal from our bank account. Say we're taking $3 out of the account every time we make a negative statement. And when we say something positive, it's like putting $1 into the account. So you do the math, right? I happen to also be a math teacher on the side. So one of my passions, right, is numbers. So we want to make sure that every time we say something negative, we're balancing it by putting one, two, three extra dollars into the account overall. Okay, it doesn't have to be all at the same time or in one particular conversation with our husband, but holistically, if we were to at the end of the day tally the way our day went, we want to make sure that we are not ending up in the red, right? So the other thing to keep in mind is for some of us, overall, it's just uncomfortable to speak in a positive way. And that comes from a lot of different places, but I'd say the number one root comes from our upbringing. So if you take a moment to think about what was modeled for you as a child, did you see your mother and father regularly complimenting one another, speaking in a positive way, thanking one another, smiling towards one another, or did they just kind of like go about their business, kind of running side by side, and you didn't see or feel that warmth between them? So for many people, they didn't have that modeled for them, and so then they have a hard time with that. Another thing is you can think about also just your schooling experience, right? From your teachers or from your friends or any of your surroundings in the way that you were raised. What was modeled for you? So the good news is, even though maybe it wasn't modeled for us, we don't need to go around thinking we're doomed then, right? For some of us, it just may be harder than others to be able to cultivate this language of positivity and complimentary language towards our husbands, right? And the other thing is, it doesn't have to be some grandiose statement where we're going to our husband and saying, "You are just so fantastic and wonderful, and I admire you dearly." Okay, once again, we want to be authentic. It could be something very little, as much as, let's say our husband regularly takes out the garbage, and we just kind of take it for granted and don't necessarily thank him. Even if it means every day saying, "Thanks so much for taking out the garbage. I know you do it, and I never have to take out the garbage. I really appreciate that." Right? So finding little moments like that to sneak into the day to say a thank you, or maybe just to fill up a glass of water and go bring it to your husband and say, "Here, you must be thirsty," and just an act of kindness towards him, right? Those are all deposits into the bank account, so to speak. And the last thing that I want to leave you with for today, and which we're going to speak about more over the next coming days, is something that I find personally to be very helpful for me. And that is to focus on gratitude. So, a story that I wanted to share with you is there's a woman who I know from Baltimore, and her name is Mrs. Schiffer Ravenstein. Some of you may be familiar with her story already. And she, a number of years ago, is married to Rabbi Shua Ravenstein, and they had two small children and were expecting a third. And that morning, her husband went off to work and unfortunately was in a horrific accident. Shifra went ahead and visited him later in the hospital as soon as she heard the news, and she saw that he was, incapacitated. Thank God he survived the accident, but not without long-lasting effects, including physical and mental impairments that came as a result, with many, many years of therapy and trying to improve and rehabilitate still long-lasting, lifelong effects. So I'm blown away by her story, because when she speaks publicly about her life story in this incident, she focuses on how lucky she is. She looks at all of the positives in her experience. Could you imagine? Could you imagine your whole life, while you're pregnant especially, being turned upside down and your husband becoming incapacitated and you having to take care of everyone, your children, your own pregnant body, and let alone your husband? Think about every single detail, every little gift that we have in our lives, right? So I focus on this story, and it's like it puts everything into perspective. All the little things, they melt away. They don't even matter anymore. So really cultivating an attitude of gratitude could help us so much with turning around the way that we view our perspective on our relationship with our husbands and the way that we communicate with them. So once again, I will continue with how to develop this new mindset of gratitude in the upcoming classes. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great day.